The moment we have all feared is finally here, and the global financial elite are terrified that you might actually wake up and realize that the silver in your hand is worth 100 times more than the digits on your banking app. For decades, the mainstream media and the central banks have conspired to keep the price of silver suppressed. But as of this very hour, the physical vaults in London and New York have hit a critical breaking point that can no longer be hidden by accounting tricks or paper contracts. What you're seeing on your screen as the spot price is a complete and total fabrication. A ghost price designed to keep you from rushing to the exits, while the billionaires quietly drain every single ounce of physical bullion left on the planet. The global silver market has officially detached from reality, and the supply chain that fuels everything from your smartphone to the most advanced missile systems is currently in a state of terminal collapse. We are no longer talking about a potential shortage. We are witnessing a full-scale institutional heist, where the largest banks in the world are selling silver they do not own to investors who will never receive it. There are currently over 500 ounces of paper silver traded for every single ounce of physical metal sitting in a vault, meaning that 499 out of 500 people who think they own silver are actually holding nothing but a worthless promise from a bank that is already insolvent. If you try to walk into a local bullion dealer today, you will see the terrifying truth. The premiums have exploded because there is simply no metal left to be found. Yet the official price remains stagnant because the COMEX is desperately trying to prevent a total systemic meltdown. This is the greatest wealth transfer in human history happening in real time, and if you are waiting for the news to tell you to buy, you have already lost, because by the time the headlines catch up, the price will have gapped up by hundreds of dollars overnight. The physical vaults are screaming empty, but the digital screens are whispering everything is fine, creating a dangerous illusion that is about to shatter with the force of a 1,000-year flood. Behind closed doors, the industrial giants like Tesla and Samsung are panicking because they realize that silver is the most indispensable metal of the modern age, more important than gold, and even more vital than oil for the future of technology. Without silver, the entire green energy revolution is a fantasy, and the military-industrial complex would grind to a halt within weeks, which is why the government is terrified of the public realizing how scarce this resource truly is. They need you to believe that silver is just a relic of the past so they can continue to buy it at a discount while they prepare for a world where physical assets are the only things that hold value. The central banks of the East, led by Russia and China, have already figured out the game and have been quietly hoarding thousands of tons of physical silver, withdrawing it from Western markets and locking it away in the high-security vaults. They know that the US dollar is a sinking ship, and they are preparing a new gold and silver-backed currency system that will leave the Western world in a state of permanent economic shock. While the average American is distracted by celebrity gossip and political theater, the global chessboard is being rearranged to ensure that those who hold physical metal will be the new masters of the 21st century. We are witnessing the death of the paper paradigm, a system built on debt and deception that has lasted for over 50 years, but has finally run out of runway. The banks have used naked short selling to suppress the price of silver for years, but you cannot short a physical shortage forever, and the laws of physics are finally overriding the laws of finance. When the short squeeze of all ages finally triggers, it won't be like GameStop or Bitcoin. It will be a violent revaluation of the entire world's monetary system that will wipe out trillions of dollars in paper wealth in a single afternoon. Think about the sheer math of the situation. There is less investable silver above ground today than there is gold, yet the price ratio between the two is at a historical extreme that makes no logical sense in a functioning market. This distortion is the final warning that the system is broken beyond repair, and those who are smart enough to look past the propaganda are moving their life savings into the only thing that cannot be printed, hacked, or deleted by a central bank. The window of opportunity to acquire physical silver at these manipulated prices is closing so fast that we might be looking at the last few days of affordable metal before it becomes a rich man's luxury. The Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory. It is a documented plan by the World Economic Forum to transition humanity into a digital currency system where your spending can be tracked, limited, and controlled at the touch of a button. Physical silver is the ultimate escape hatch from this digital prison, which is exactly why the elites are doing everything in their power to make it difficult for you to own, tax it into oblivion, or simply hide the truth about its scarcity. They want you dependent on their system, but a bag of silver coins represents a level of freedom and sovereignty that no central bank digital currency can ever provide. Every time you look at the silver price and see it drop a few cents, you're watching a desperate criminal try to cover his tracks before the police arrive. But the police in this scenario are the industrial users who are finally demanding their physical delivery. When Apple, Boeing, and Raytheon realize they can't fulfill their contracts because the silver vaults are dry, they won't care about the spot price on a computer screen. They will pay whatever it takes to get the physical metal, and that is when the price will go vertical. This is not about investing anymore. This is about survival in a world where the very foundation of our economy is built on a mountain of lies that is currently catching fire. The madness of the current situation is that most people are still focused on the stock market or real estate, not realizing that those assets are denominated in a currency that is losing its value by the hour. Silver is the only asset class that has not yet had its moonshot moment in this cycle, making it the most undervalued and overlooked opportunity in the history of finance. But the catch is that you cannot buy what doesn't exist, and we are reaching the point where even if you have $1 million, you won't be able to find a dealer willing to sell you a single ounce of silver. The COMEX registered inventories have dropped by over 70% in the last 2 years, a staggering statistic that should be the lead story on every news channel in the world, yet there is a total media blackout. They don't want to panic, but the panic is already happening among the smart money who are chartering private jets to move their bullion out of the reach of Western governments. They are preparing for a bank holiday where your accounts will be frozen and your only currency will be what you have stored in your own home, away from the prying eyes of the IRS and the banking cartels. If you think the government will step in to save you, look at what happened to the silver miners in the past. They were forced to sell their production at suppressed prices just to keep the dollar alive. But the miners are finally waking up too, and many are starting to withhold their production from the market, refusing to sell their precious resource for funny money that loses value every day. This miners' strike is the final nail in the coffin for the paper-silver market, as the supply of new metal hitting the market is about to drop to near zero, creating a vacuum that will suck the price into the stratosphere. The gap between the paper price and the physical price has now become so wide that even the most casual observer can see the fraud, with silver coins in Japan and India selling for nearly double what the New York markets claim they're worth. This arbitrage is a massive neon sign flashing danger for anyone holding US dollars or European euros, signaling that the global trust in Western finance has completely evaporated. We are living through the final act of a 50-year-old drama, and the ending involves the total destruction of the fiat money system and a return to the only honest money mankind has ever known. Every ounce of silver that is used in a solar panel or a cell phone is gone forever, because it is currently not economically viable to recycle it, meaning that the world's above-ground supply is being burned up at an astronomical rate. Unlike gold, which is mostly stored in vaults and never used, silver is being consumed by our high-tech society, making it rarer with every passing second. We are literally running out of the most conductive element on Earth, and yet the markets are acting as if it is as common as dirt. This is a recipe for a price explosion that will make the Bitcoin rally look like a warm-up. When the history books are written about this era, they will talk about the great silver heist and how a small group of bankers managed to fool the world into thinking that paper was more valuable than metal for a few decades. They will wonder how we could have been so blind as to ignore the clear signs of vault depletion and market manipulation that were staring us in the face. But for those who are watching legacy economics, you won't be among the victims. You will be among the few who saw the truth and took action before the doors to the vaults were welded shut for good. The technical charts for silver are currently forming a pattern that hasn't been seen since the late 1970s, right before the price went from $4 to $50 in a matter of months. But this time, the fundamentals are 100 times stronger. We have more debt, more money printing, and less physical silver than we did 40 years ago, which means the coming move will be exponentially more powerful and more permanent. This isn't just a trade, it's a structural realignment of the world's wealth away from the corrupt institutions and back into the hands of the people. The banks are currently net short to a degree that is mathematically impossible to resolve without a total bankruptcy of the major bullion banks like JP Morgan and HSBC. They are trapped in a nightmare of their own making, and their only way out is to try and crash the entire economy so they can get a government bailout and start the game over with a new digital currency. But that plan only works if you don't have physical silver. If you have the metal, you are the one who holds all the leverage when the reset button is finally pushed. We are currently in the quiet before the storm, that eerie moment where everything looks normal on the surface, but underneath, the foundations are crumbling and the sea is receding before a massive tsunami. The wise are already on high ground, having moved their wealth into physical assets that don't rely on a working internet connection or a benevolent government to exist. You have to ask yourself, if the banks are so confident in their system, why are they buying up silver and gold mines at a record pace while telling you to keep your money in a savings account? This is your final warning to stop looking at the spot price and start looking at the availability, because in a crisis, the price is irrelevant if you cannot find anyone willing to sell to you. The silver market is the Achilles heel of the entire global financial system, and once that heel is pierced, the entire giant will come crashing down in a heap of worthless paper and broken promises. Do not be the person who watches this video today and says, "I'll look into it tomorrow." because tomorrow might be the day the banks don't open and the price of an ounce of silver becomes priceless. The truth about the banks is hidden in plain sight for anyone with the courage to look. And the truth is that the silver vaults are empty, the paper market is a lie, and the greatest economic crash in history has already begun. Your wealth, your future, and your family's security depend on your ability to see through the legacy economics of the past and embrace the hard money reality of the future. The time for talk is over. The vaults are being emptied as we speak, and once that last ounce is gone, the world as you know it will change forever. Make sure you are on the right side of history. The industrial demand for silver is currently acting as a vacuum that is sucking the life out of the global banking reserves, and what the public doesn't realize is that every single artificial intelligence chip and high-end robotics component being manufactured today is consuming the very silver that used to back our currency. This is a one-way street because unlike gold, which is kept in bars and recycled, silver is used in such small quantities across billions of devices that it is effectively lost to the landfills forever, creating a terminal deficit that no mining operation on Earth can possibly fill. We are approaching a vertical scarcity event where the tech giants will be forced to bypass the banks and buy directly from the mines at any price just to keep their assembly lines moving, leaving the individual investor completely locked out of the market. Imagine for a second a world where the power grid flickers and your digital banking app displays a system maintenance message that lasts for weeks, while the Great Reset is implemented behind the scenes. In that moment, your credit cards are plastic garbage and your paper cash is losing value by the hour, leaving physical silver as the only recognized medium of exchange for food, fuel, and safety. This isn't a dystopian movie script. It is the historical reality of every fiat currency collapse in human history. And we are currently sitting at the 53-year mark of a dollar system that was only designed to last 40. The elites know this, which is why they are pushing for a cashless society. Not for your convenience, but to ensure that you have no exit ramp when they decide to devalue the currency overnight. The current spot price of silver is a psychological weapon used to discourage the masses, but if you look at the real-world transactions happening in the shadows, you will see that the largest family offices and sovereign wealth funds are paying massive off-market premiums just to secure physical delivery. They are essentially telling the COMEX that their paper prices are a joke, that they are willing to pay whatever it takes to get the metal out of the vaults and into their own private custody before the bank holidays begin. When you see the official price drop, while the cost of an actual silver coin rises, you are witnessing the final stage of market manipulation before the entire structure snaps like a dry twig under the weight of its own lies. The ghost of 1933 is haunting the halls of the Federal Reserve as the government secretly prepares for the possibility of a Precious Metals Act that could make it difficult for private citizens to acquire or transport large quantities of bullion. They did it with gold during the Great Depression to save the banks, and they are prepared to do it again with silver because it is the people's money and the greatest threat to their total digital control. By keeping the price low and the headlines quiet, they are ensuring that most people remain unprepared and unhedged, making them easier to manage when the transition to the central bank digital currency, CBDC, is finally forced upon the population.